Good morning. Today I am speaking to you from the Roxbury YMCA, and I'm joined by James Morton, CEO of the Greater Boston YMCA, Catherine Saunders, Executive Director of this YMCA, Maria Fernandez-Dominique of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, Leslie Wellstrom of Boston Triathlon, Maya Smith, Joy Williams, and Melanie. What is your name? Melanie. Melanie Welsh, who are co-founders of the Boston Harbor Women of Color Coalition, and my Chief of Civic Engagement, Aisha Miller. This year, there have been far too many drownings. Any drowning is too many. We've experienced this in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we grieve with the families and loved ones of all of the victims. It is predicted by the end of the year, the number of drowning deaths will likely exceed last year's high of 125. Our beautiful city gems, such as our pools and our beaches, should be places where people can access those areas safely and with confidence. But the number of drowning deaths this year has now become a public health crisis. The crisis calls for increased swimming safety and swimming awareness. According to the American Red Cross, swimming lessons can reduce the risk of drowning by 88%. Death by drowning is the third leading cause of accidental deaths globally. According to the Center for Disease Control, Black children ages 10 to 14 are 7.6 times more likely to drown than white children of the same age. Overall, Black children drown at 5.5 times the rate of other children. In 2016, drowning was the second leading cause of unintentional death among Black boys and girls under 18. And further, a 2017 report commissioned by the USA Swimming found that in families with household annual incomes below $50,000 a year, 79% of children have little or no swimming skills. The reasons vary from fear of water due to post-traumatic swimming experiences, false and negative cultural assumptions, and an overall lack of access to swimming facilities or bodies of water, and the dearth of swimming caps to properly accommodate Black hair. Studies have also linked segregation to the reason why 64% of Black children cannot swim today, compared to only 40% of white children that cannot swim. During segregation, Black people and other people of color were barred from entering swimming facilities, contributing to the racial disparity and swimming ability that persists today. The late Mimi Jones of Boston, for example, found herself at the center of flagrant poolside racism. In 1964, at the age of 17, Jones participated in a swim-in civil rights demonstration at a motel in St. Augustine, Florida. The manager of the motel poured acid into the pool as she and other activists swam. Children activists, I might add. Scenes such as this one were viewed from all over the world, contributing to multi-generational distrust of shared water spaces. Responding to the need for swimming lessons will not only increase safety, but also provide additional opportunities and co-benefits such as enhanced health benefits for children and adults. Today, I am announcing the Swim Safely Partnership, a critical life-saving initiative between the City of Boston, the YMCA of Greater Boston, Boston Public Schools, the Boston Triathlon, Save the Harbor's Women of Color Coalition, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mass. The partnership will, number one, offer free swim lessons for children and adults at the Roxbury, Dorchester, and Hyde Park YMCAs through an investment from My Joy Agenda and a matching philanthropic contribution from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Number two, expand our lifeguard workforce by training up to 60 young people through collaboration with BPS, also made possible through funds from My Joy Agenda together with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Number three, explore options for adding swim lessons to the BPS third grade curriculum. This partnership will also offer cultural competency lessons and community conversations led by the Boston Harbor Women of Color Coalition. These conversations will serve as an opportunity to come together, address multi-generational fears, emphasize swimming safety, debunk cultural myths, and address unique cultural barriers like how to best care for hair and skin. Black girls are less inclined to swim due to the lack of swimming caps designed to protect their hair from chlorinated water. As a part of this initiative, we will provide swim caps that work for everyone. These swim caps, known as Soul Caps, were in the spotlight earlier this year when they were banned from the Tokyo Olympics by the International Swimming Federation. I would like to close with a quote from the author Heather McGhee in her book, The Sum of Us. And I quote, "In the 1950s and the 1960s, white officials and communities across the country opted to drain public swimming pools rather than integrate them. Generations later, America still hasn't recognized that racism has a cost for everyone, but our future can look different," end quote. Today, kicking off Boston Swim Safely Partnership, we are working to dismantle structural racism, and we are welcoming all people to swim safely in our pools and on our beaches. For inquiries about free swim lessons, please email swim@boston.gov. Thank you, and now I will turn the mic over to James Morton, who will share some remarks with you. Thank you. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Janey. I am so excited and elated to have this opportunity to share this incredible opportunity with all of you. And so let's think about this. This is a partnership, a public-private partnership between the city and a multitude of different organizations to provide our community with access to swim lessons, to create the next generation of lifeguards that can protect those children and keep those children safe. And what an amazing opportunity this is for absolutely every one of us. And so, so who's going to do this great work? I want to identify a few folks who are here with us. Amy Turner is our Chief Program Officer. She'll oversee this initiative. Amy. Here at the Roxbury YMCA, and thank you for hosting us this morning, is Catherine Saunders, the Executive Director here. She will drive this initiative here at the Roxbury Y. And then I see Bexy Perez, who is our Director of our Menino YMCA, and that's in Hyde Park, and she'll take on that responsibility. Bexy, thank you. And then in Dorchester is Anthony Atride, who will do this great work. And while we're talking about folks who are going to be directly involved in this effort, I want to recognize Daley Hamilton. Daley, please raise your hand. Right? Daley just started today. He's our aquatics director for the Roxbury YMCA, and we are elated to have him as part of our team. Thank you. And so this work can only be done in partnership, and it's through partnership that makes it successful, because we're all talking about different aspects of making sure that there's equity in the water, right, so that our children can have access to the beachfront, 47 miles of shoreline for the city of Boston that we should have access to. And so there are lots of efforts going on right now in this very moment to make sure that we all have access to this beautiful gem that you described, Mayor Janey, in the city of Boston. And so I appreciate your coalition for the work that you're going to be doing. And then we've got the Coalition for a Resilient and Inclusive Waterfront. I thank you, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for supporting us and making this possible, because with resources, we can do these things, right? Yeah. And so let me bring my remarks to a close with some specifics. So our goal is to provide free swim lessons for 300 children and lifeguard training for 60 high school students, and to do all of that between now and June, when the next swim season kind of starts for our pools and streams and waterways, right? And so we've got a lot of work to do. That's a bold and audacious objective, and Amy's back there saying, he never told me about this deadline, but we're going to get it done, because it's either go hard or go home. That's right. Go hard or go home. And so the first lessons are going to begin on November 1st, and then the next session of lessons, January 3rd, and the third set of lessons, February 28th, and sequentially thereafter until we reach this goal that we set for ourselves. And so, Mayor Janey, we appreciate being a part of your legacy. And what you're doing for the city is amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Did anyone else want to offer remarks? Should we go into questions? No. Happy to take a couple of questions.
Just on this topic, I wonder if you could ask, the swim lessons obviously start in November, and a lot of people think, oh, I can't take swimming lessons in November because you swim in the summertime. What would you tell folks who say, well, I'll wait, I don't need to have it done now? You can't learn to swim in this wintertime.
Well, I would say that people swim all year round. It's why we have indoor pools, but I will turn it over to James.
Sure.
And I think the important opportunity here is to make sure we are doing all that we can to prepare new swimmers, to train new lifeguards prior to the height of swim season, which would be summer for us here in New England. But swimming is an all-year activity.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Swimming is lifelong opportunity for our young people, and learn to swim now and get in our pools and continue to practice so that when you're outside in those natural settings, you'll be able to protect yourself and you'll know how to be safe around water. So absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I would also add that swimming is a life skill. This is something that we need to normalize and make sure that every individual across our city, across our Commonwealth, and in our country can learn to do, that everyone can swim. It is important, just like you have to know how to cook for yourself, people learn how to drive. This is a life skill. Other questions?
I want to ask you off topic a little bit regarding the vaccinations and the suspension. I know your office announced yesterday that 812 folks have been suspended because they weren't vaccinated. And I guess I'm curious to know what kind of impact do you expect that will have on city services and what's sort of being done sort of to mitigate those potential impacts?
Yep. Just to clarify your question, 812 were placed on unpaid administrative leave. They were not suspended. The goal of the vaccine verification process obviously is to get as many employees vaccinated as possible. That continues to be the goal. We are working with our workforce to do just that. We want all of our employees to be in compliance, either with proof of vaccination or with regular testing. And so we will continue to work with our workforce to get everyone in compliance. To the extent that we will not have everyone comply, we are working through operational plans to make sure that we continue to deliver the services that the residents of our city deserve.
Are there any plans to bring in the National Guard to maybe help with more testing sites? Because some of these workers haven't been able to get regularly tested.
So there are conversations that are happening with the National Guard and the Boston Public Schools in particular around testing, and we'll have more to share once those conversations conclude.
I know you said that the people who are not allowed pay and not suspended, I guess, but I'm curious, that number, I know you announced it back a little while ago, you got 800. Did you expect more, less? Was that about what you expected? When do you think when the final number of folks who had not been vaccinated?
So the number is getting smaller and smaller by the day, which is a testament to all of the work that our team is doing to make sure that folks have access to the testing, that folks certainly can choose to get vaccinated. That is the goal. We want to protect our workers, and we want to protect the public that we serve. So we continue to work to ensure compliance with this mandate.
I don't think the public schools are sort of particularly impacted by this. Is that the case? And what's being done?
Well, there were 5 departments that we led with. These were the 5 departments that were working on the front lines at higher risk because they are very public-facing. And so it was our public schools, it was our public libraries, it was BCYF, as well as the Disabilities Commission and Age Strong. Boston Public Schools is the largest group of those 5 departments. And so we are working across the board with all of our departments who are in this first phase to make sure that they are in compliance. And we will continue to do so to give our workers every opportunity to comply, either with testing or with vaccination. If they do not, then they will be placed on administrative leave. We have to make sure that our workforce is protected and safe from COVID, as well as the public that we serve. But the goal is to get everyone in compliance. It is not to see people out on administrative leave.
Is there any idea of how many police and fire are affected? How many police and fire personnel are currently
So we are not in that phase at this moment. Right now we're talking about the first phase, but they will be in the next phase. The goal, again, is to get everyone in compliance, and we will continue to work with our union leaders, with our department heads to make sure that we are meeting that goal.
Will people be fired if they...
No, go ahead.
Will people be fired if they do not comply?
If they continue to not comply, yes, at some point that it will lead to termination. But the goal, again, is to make sure that we are giving our workers every opportunity to comply, that we are protecting our workforce from the deadly coronavirus, and that we are making sure that we are protecting the public.
When is this upcoming? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to ask an unrelated question about Massey Pass. There have been some other community leaders from Cambridge and Somerville and Revere who've obviously either pushed back or said that they feel like they're not being involved enough, they don't have a seat at the table in these discussions about the regional plan. How do you plan to involve them, and can you give more details about what the regional plan will look like?
Thank you so much for the question. As mayor of Boston, I have had the opportunity to convene a number of stakeholders on this issue locally, including the multitude of departments here in Boston that are working on this issue, from our police, from our public health folks, as well as our public works, beyond our city departments, working with a number of stakeholders, including our DA, our sheriff, and folks at the state. We are looking to work with others across the region. We do need a regional approach to this. Here locally, we continue to engage in outreach to make sure that we are providing supports in terms of referring people into treatment, into housing, working around tents, which are posing a public health crisis and a public safety crisis with these tents. But we, in all of this, have to make sure that we are doing so in a very humane way, and that we keep in mind that the individuals who we are discussing right now are, in fact, people who have rights, and we have to make sure that they are protected in all that we do, that many of them are very ill, and we want to make sure that we move forward in a way that recognizes that. And so this is an all-hands-on-deck approach. We need not just the folks here in Boston, we certainly need the folks in other municipalities to be part of this solution.
I understand the meeting. The recent meeting that was convened by Baker, it included a lot of stakeholders from the state, city level, but some of the leaders in Cambridge and Somerville said that they found out about it from headlines. So do you plan to, I mean, obviously this is a crisis that exists within Boston, but they feel that, whatever happens in Boston will affect the surrounding neighborhoods and communities. Do you have distinct plans to include them in future discussions like the ones that you've been having?
Yep. So what I would say, what we do know about the individuals who are in crisis and suffering from substance use disorder, who have been very much concentrated in this one area of our city, we know that more than 60% come from surrounding towns. And we believe that that number is much, much higher. And so it is important to make sure that we are bringing other folks to the table. I have been working with the Metro Mayors Coalition and other mayors through that avenue to discuss this issue. And we need to make sure that people are part of the conversation and part of the solution. We know, up until this point, a lot of people are pointing out what the problems are. Not many people are raising their hands to say, hey, how can we help? And so we certainly welcome other municipalities to be part of these conversations, to be part of the solutions, to make sure that we do have a regional approach, and that first and foremost that the individuals who need support, who need services, especially around treatment and housing, are getting what they need. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was fantastic.